Have you ever wondered how a small spark can ignite a wildfire that engulfs nations? What does the Russia-Ukraine conflict tell us about the world we live in today? It all started with a tangle of political tension and territorial claims, a complex knot that has been tightening for years. The Russia-Ukraine conflict didn't just erupt overnight. It's rooted in a long-standing dispute over sovereignty and self-determination, a struggle that has been simmering beneath the surface since the dissolution of the Soviet Union. This is not a game of checkers, it's a game of chess, with each move carefully calculated to gain a strategic advantage. Russia and Ukraine are the major players, but they are not the only ones. Other nations and international bodies are also intricately involved, each with their own interests and agendas. The United Nations, NATO, and the European Union have all played pivotal roles, walking on a diplomatic tightrope as they strive to maintain peace and stability. But the stakes are high and the consequences of a wrong move could be catastrophic. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the United States has been closely monitoring the situation. The conflict has sparked a heated debate among American policymakers, revealing divisions within the Republican Party. The debate over U.S. involvement in Ukraine has become a contentious issue, with potential presidential candidates taking divergent stances. This conflict is more than just a territorial dispute. It's a clash of ideologies, a struggle for power, a test of diplomacy, and a reflection of the world's shifting geopolitical landscape. It's a reminder that in today's interconnected world, a spark in one corner can quickly ignite a wildfire that engulfs the whole planet. As we delve deeper, we realize that this conflict is not an isolated incident, but a complex tapestry of geopolitical interests and power struggles. A sequence of events like dominoes falling has brought us to where we are now. What were these critical moments? Our journey begins with the initial invasion. The world watched in disbelief as Russian forces advanced into Ukraine, an audacious move that kicked off a series of confrontations, each more intense than the last. As the invasion unfolded, key battles emerged as turning points in this conflict, each clash marked by the courage and resilience of the Ukrainian people. The city of Kiev, the heart of the nation, became a symbol of defiance, a testament to the indomitable spirit of its inhabitants. But this war was not confined to the borders of Russia and Ukraine. It echoed across the globe, prompting international responses that varied from condemnation to support. The global community found itself divided, with some nations rallying behind Ukraine and others siding with Russia. Among the most vocal was the United States. The country's stance on the conflict evolved, marked by pivotal moments that further complicated the situation. Take, for instance, the comments made by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. His questioning of the significance of the conflict sparked a debate within the Republican Party, highlighting the divisions over U.S. involvement in Ukraine. This internal discord was further fueled by figures like General Mark Milley and former Vice President Mike Pence, who advocated for supporting Ukraine as a defense of international order. So even as the war raged on in Ukraine, a different kind of battle was unfolding stateside, one that could potentially shape the course of the upcoming general election. And then there was the recent drone incident between Russia and the U.S., a moment that escalated tensions to a whole new level, bringing with it implications for U.S. foreign policy and domestic politics. This event served as a stark reminder of the far-reaching consequences of this war, of how a conflict in one corner of the world can reverberate across continents. Each of these events has not only shaped the course of this war, but has also had rippling effects globally. It's a chain of dominoes, each piece representing a crucial moment in this ongoing conflict. And as they topple, one by one, they continue to shape not just the future of Ukraine and Russia, but of the world as a whole. A war doesn't just change the borders on the map, it also leaves an imprint on the economy. What has been the impact of this war on Russia and Ukraine's currency situation? Let's delve into the economic ripple effects of the conflict, focusing on the currency situation in Russia and Ukraine. War, as you might imagine, is a costly endeavor. It drains resources, disrupts trade, and creates uncertainty that can send financial markets into a tailspin. This is precisely what we're seeing with Russia and Ukraine. The Russian ruble and the Ukrainian hryvnia, the national currencies of the two nations, have been hit hard. The value of these currencies relative to others, such as the US dollar or euro, has plummeted. This depreciation makes it more expensive for these countries to import goods, leading to a rise in the cost of living for everyday citizens. On a broader scale, the conflict has sent shockwaves through global markets. Investors hate uncertainty, and war is about as uncertain as it gets. Consequently, we see stock markets falling and investors rushing to safe haven assets like gold or stable currencies like the US dollar. This global risk aversion can exacerbate the currency issues in Russia and Ukraine, creating a vicious cycle of economic instability. But the economic fallout doesn't stop when the guns fall silent. The long-term consequences of war can linger for years, if not decades, in the form of lost economic output, damaged infrastructure, and a generation of citizens whose lives have been disrupted by conflict. These costs are much harder to quantify, but they're a critical part of understanding the full economic impact of war. Moreover, these economic impacts can have geopolitical ramifications. Nations with struggling economies are more susceptible to political instability, and economic sanctions can further isolate them from the international community. This isolation can lead to increased hostility and even reignite conflict, creating a cycle that's difficult to break. A war's cost is not just counted in lives lost but also in economic terms, affecting nations' prosperity and people's livelihoods. Wars are as much about politics as they are about power. How has this conflict influenced the political landscape in the US and beyond? Well, let's delve into that. The war in Ukraine has undoubtedly cast long shadows over the political landscape, not just in the directly involved countries but also in the United States. The situation has been particularly impactful within the Republican Party, where it has highlighted some striking divisions. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, a potential contender for the 2024 Republican presidential campaign, has adopted a more isolationist stance on the war. His somewhat skeptical view of the conflict's significance has sparked responses from other Republican hopefuls and drawn criticism from GOP lawmakers. This divergence of opinion underlines a significant divide within the party. While DeSantis champions a more isolationist approach, figures like former Vice President Mike Pence and General Mark Milley advocate for supporting Ukraine as a defense of international order. But this isn't just about internal party politics. The debate over the US's involvement in Ukraine could well become a major fault line in the upcoming Republican primary race and even the general election. The recent drone incident between Russia and the US has only further heightened tensions, with potential implications for US foreign policy and domestic politics. Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump's praise for Russian President Vladimir Putin has also stirred the political pot. His endorsement of Putin, especially in the midst of the Ukraine crisis, has sparked widespread criticism. Yet, it's worth noting that a majority of attendees at the Conservative Political Action Conference expressed willingness to vote for Trump in the 2024 Republican primary. This highlights an ongoing tension between democracy and autocracy, a global battle that's becoming increasingly intense. In essence, the war in Ukraine isn't just a military conflict, it's a political chess game, with moves and counter-moves that could reshape the global political landscape. The echoes of this conflict reach far beyond the battlefield, influencing political narratives and shaping future policies. In the grand chessboard of geopolitics, every move has consequences. So what have we learned from the Russia-Ukraine conflict? We've seen how a regional dispute can escalate into a global concern, a crisis that not only threatens the stability of the involved nations, but also shakes the world's financial systems and political structures. The conflict's timeline reveals a series of events that have unfolded, each one escalating the situation. From the initial tensions to the eventual war, the world has been a witness to the harsh realities of international politics. The economic impact, particularly the currency situation, has underscored how interconnected our global economy truly is. The devaluation and instability of currencies are not just numbers on a screen, but real issues affecting people's lives and livelihoods. In terms of political ramifications, the conflict has exposed divisions within political parties and has become a major fault line in the race for leadership, not just in the United States, but around the globe. As we continue to observe the unfolding of these events, it's crucial to remember that the ripple effects of such conflicts reach far and wide, affecting us all in profound ways.